Everyone, and welcome back. In today's video we're going to be doing a whole makeup collection that you guys have asked for. I have a video already of going through my entire beauty room, and I basically will link everything in the description, but that video is going to be in the description where I've gone through my entire beauty room and quickly went over all my makeup. If that's something that you'd rather just see one long quick video, then you can click the link in the description box below, and in that description box of that video you can find all the stuff that I have in here. If you're looking for something, you're like, oh, I like that, you'll be able to find everything in that video's description box. For every Wednesday for the next few weeks, I'm going to be doing categories of my makeup collection. So all the foundations will be grouped together with the primers and the concealers and the powder foundations and the setting powders. And then it'll be like bronzers, highlighters, eyeshadow palettes, lipsticks, etc. And those will all come on Wednesdays from now on until the whole entire collection is over. The other thing is, this very recording that I'm doing right now is going to be the beginning intro of every single one of those videos. So I will mark when you guys can skip ahead so you guys don't have to keep on watching it if you don't want to. So I know that some people are going to be like, oh, why do you have that much makeup? You don't need that much makeup. You're never going to use it. Well, I'm well aware, and something I like to collect, so I don't know what to say. Don't watch the video if you don't like to see all this makeup. So without further ado, let's get into this week's collection. Okay, so let's start off with the biggest one. I'm just gonna go from my favorites and then my least favorites, like all the other videos. This is the Adept Cosmetics Makeup Storage Palette. It holds 88 eyeshadow pans, which is a lot. This is where I store all my Inglot and my Makeup Geek foiled eyeshadows. I haven't been able to fill this yet, but I plan on filling it and then replacing all my Z palettes, which you will see in here because I haven't replaced them yet. I no longer will buy Z palettes after that whole drama happened, so Z palette is done and Adapt Cosmetics is now what's poppin'. So my next favorite is the Ace Beauty Quintessentials palette, which you guys have seen me use. This is what the inside looks like, and let me just quickly say also, because I forgot to say, if the audio goes like high, low, it's because I'm recording on my regular voiceover microphone right now, and I keep on moving, so if the sound is weird, I apologize, but gotta do what you gotta do. So next up is the Natasha Denona Sunset Palette. You guys have seen me use this quite a few times, and as you can see by the pan, it has been abused. This is one of my favorite palettes in the world. Sticking with Natasha Denona palettes, this is the Lila palette. This is what the inside looks like. It is a very beautiful palette. So I haven't used all the shades in this, but as you can see by the center shade, it has been abused. These two right here have been abused, and this one has definitely been abused. Again, more Natasha Denona palettes. This is the Star palette. So I do love this palette, and I've used basically, I think, every single color in this. This is the one shade that I'm not the biggest fan of. It just gets very, very messy very quickly. So again, more Natasha Denona palettes. This is the green and brown palette. Also, excuse my ring light that is reflecting in that. So this is the inside of the palette. Again, I've used this quite a lot. These palettes and her eyeshadows are one of my absolute favorite formulas in the entire world. They're definitely worth the price. You get double the product as a typical eyeshadow palette that you would get. Let's say by like Anastasia, you get double the product, sometimes even triple the product of what is in there. So yes, it does have a big price tag, but it's definitely worth it. So speaking of Anastasia palettes, this is the Modern Renaissance palette. Definitely have used and abused this. I don't need to say too much about it. You guys already all know. And the one thing that I don't like about these palettes that everyone always says is this gets so dirty. You guys can kind of see in there. It is super, super dirty. That's the one thing I don't like. I wish she stopped doing this, but I guess that's not going to happen since all of her palettes are always like this. So following Anastasia palettes, this is the World Traveler palette. This is the packaging that I used to absolutely love. I did get some stuff on there which will not come off anymore, but this is the type of packaging that I used to love. So I don't really use this that much anymore. Unfortunately, I should start using it again since it is a beautiful palette, but this Azure shade is beautiful and the pink champagne is absolutely amazing. So this is the Urban Decay Vice palette. It is one of the few palettes that I actually like by Urban Decay. That's the inside of the palette. It's very, very colorful. I have used quite a few of the shades, but it's not really something that I grab too much anymore. And I really should start playing with this again because I know that it is a nice palette. Following Urban Decay, this is the Electric palette. There's really not much I need to say about this one either because everyone already knows what this one looks like and it is amazing. So moving on to Juvia's Place, this is the Masquerade Mini palette. So I'm pretty sure that the only difference between this and the Masquerade is that this is just a little bit smaller, the pans, and they're not that gigantic pan. I think that's the only difference in between the two. I have a love-hate relationship with this. I like it. The shimmer shades I do like, but the mattes and also some of the actual shimmer shades, I do find myself having to build up quite a lot to get the actual color to pay off, which is weird because I never hear anyone talk about that. So maybe I just have a weird palette and it was formulated weird. I don't know. So this is the Nubians 2 palette. This is the inside and I bought this. I also bought another one as well. There was 3 that came in a bundle, which I will show the other one in just a second. And you save like a few dollars. Again, love-hate relationship, and I don't know what it is. There's a lot of hype behind these palettes. My only thing with them is that I find that you can almost buy 1 to 2 palettes and then you have all the shades. They always seem pretty similar if you ask me. So this is the 3rd palette that came in the bundle. This is the Nubian palette. To be quite honest, I've used this a couple times and I was just like, I don't know. To me, I do love them, but I also don't like them at the same time. It's too much work for some reason to build up the color on me. I never hear anyone ever say that, but for me, it always takes quite a lot to build it up. So these are all Makeup Geek eyeshadows, and this is in a Z palette. I will be getting rid of this and buying one of those gigantic magnetic palettes that I just showed in the first clip. I absolutely love Makeup Geek eyeshadows. I wish they would come out with more shades, and I wish everyone went back to being obsessed with them because they honestly have really, really nice formulas. The funny thing is, I actually made my teacher from my makeup school actually buy and become obsessed with Makeup Geek eyeshadows, so you're welcome to her. Again, more Makeup Geek eyeshadows, except for these 2 down here, and I believe this one as well is a MAC eyeshadow. So those 3 are MAC eyeshadows. The rest of them are Makeup Geek, and again, in a Z palette, which will be changing soon. So next up is one of the limited edition Kat Von D metal matte palettes. I absolutely only bought this originally just for the writing because this way it says metal, and when you flip it over, it says matte, and this is definitely something that Kat Von D would do. She's super artistic and very inspiring, and I absolutely love everything about her. And then once they showed us the colors that were inside, I was like, yeah, I don't even care. This palette is absolutely mine, 100%. It doesn't look like I've used too much of it, but I actually have used quite a few of these shades and quite a few of the shimmers as well. I like how they kind of correspond, so you kind of have a color to go with any of the matte shades as well. That was something that I really loved. She kind of made that a trend, and now a lot of palettes I've seen basically do the exact same thing. Another palette that I absolutely love is the Color Ring Queen of Hearts palette. I have used this in quite a few of my tutorials. It has been abused. This is a lovely, lovely, lovely palette. If you guys do not have this, you definitely need to get it. So I believe this was last summer. Sephora launched a Sephora Pro collection of eyeshadow palettes, and this is the editorial palette. It was $80, I believe it is, or something crazy like that. It's very pigmented. It's really nice. I haven't used too much of these shades down here, but majority of these I have all gone into, and I really liked it. This is the only one that I picked up. 1, because of the price, but 2, because the other ones were they had a cool tone one, which is very muted, and they all look the same, and then a gigantic warm palette, which I said if you had have done this maybe a year and a half ago to 2 years ago, I would have bought in it. But because I already have thousands of warm eyeshadow palettes, I was like, nah, we ain't gonna get that. So this is an OG palette. Everyone owns this palette, the Too Faced Chocolate Bar. That's what the inside looks like for those who don't know. I'm sure everybody knows what this looks like. I rarely ever gravitate towards this palette anymore. I do really, really like it, but it's just not something that I ever grab anymore. So moving on, this is the Viseart Paris Nudes palette. I don't really ever use this if I am doing makeup on myself. This is more something that I put inside of my kit, only because they are very, very natural looking. It's not something that I personally would use on myself because I like very intense shimmer shades, and these aren't really that. Following Viseart palettes, this is the editorial, no. So following Viseart palettes, this is the neutral matte palette, and this one I use a little bit more only because it's a it's a basic palette, but the quality is so amazing. I absolutely love it. I will use this on myself. I'd use it on anybody. This, if you don't own and you want to get one of the Viseart palettes and you're not really a super, I don't know, colorful look type of person, this is a really amazing. So this is the Viseart editorial palette, and I've used this in quite some videos, quite a lot of my videos actually, now that I think of it. This is a amazing high quality. Always call it the rainbow palette, but it's supposed to be the editorial. That's what you're supposed to call it, but I call it rainbow palette. If you want a very high quality, amazing, super pigmented, lots of product in each pan as well, this is the palette for you. You will never ever finish this palette, I can guarantee that. So this is the Anastasia Soft Glam palette. I didn't realize I didn't show this earlier with all the other ones, but this is that same packaging that I do not like. And this is the inside. It's, in my opinion, it's very similar to the Makeup by Mario palette that they did, the collaboration. That one is very similar in my opinion to this one, which I ended up getting rid of that and regretted it. So I only bought this one just because they looked very similar. So this is the ColourPop Cute AF palette. I believe that's what it's called. There's like 3 names online for this, so I never know what to call it, but that's what's on the cover of this palette. This is very similar to the Natasha Denona Sunset palette. I don't think the quality is the same whatsoever. I know lots of people have said it is. I don't believe so, but this is a very nice, affordable, warm eyeshadow palette. So these are all individual eyeshadows. They're all by a indie brand called Luxie Beauty. I think that's how you say it, Luxie Beauty. I am going to eventually do a review on a bunch of indie brand products. I will get around to it. I always keep on saying that I'm going to do it, and I never end up doing it. I will get around to it eventually. Anyways, these are their shadows. So here are a bunch of quads that are all by Anastasia, and they all have Anastasia's eyeshadows in them. At Sephora, you could buy these palettes for $1. They also fit quite a few different pan sizes as well. So if you guys want to find like a little quad and put like a little thing together for yourself, this is a very cost affordable way to do it. Again, this is more of the Anastasia quads that I have and put together myself. And lastly, another quad that I put together myself. Again, all Anastasia Beverly Hills eyeshadows inside of it. So moving on, this is a little palette by MAC. I think this is like this, they called it the Spring Summer 2017 collection. I'm not 100% sure. When I bought this online, I thought this was actually all powders, and then when I got it, it was creams. And I was kind of like, ugh, I'm not ever going to use this, but I actually use this quite a lot on my older looks. When I was trying to do different kind of colors, I would use these as a base and then put the powder on top, and it just gives you the most intense pigment in the world. These are great. So this is the Dose of Colors Katie and Desi collection. This is their little quad eyeshadow palette. When I first got it, I loved it, and to be honest, I don't really like it anymore because of that whole finger, you gotta use your fingers to use the shadows. I kind of just think that's a poor excuse for a poor formulated eyeshadow. But I will say that if you are okay with using your fingers, this is amazing. I don't think you can get it anymore. I don't think it's coming back into stock at all. I think it was just like a 1-time, 2-time, 3-time, I think they restocked it thing, and that was it. So moving on, this is the Divine and Kat Von D collection eyeshadow palette. This just launched not too long ago, and to be honest, I'm not even going to play with it at all. I only got this just because of Divine. This is an amazing collab. Everyone says the eyeshadows are very pigmented and beautiful, and to be honest, I'll never ever find out because I just bought this just for collecting. So this is the Jouer Skinny Dip Ultra Foil Shimmer Shadow Eyeshadow Palette. I did a review on this. I believe I did a review on this on my channel. If I did, there will be a little card that will pop up in the top corner right now. And these are very nice. I don't use them as much anymore, unless I'm looking for a specific color that I can't find in my Makeup Geek foiled. I like my foiled eyeshadows by Makeup Geek the absolute most. So this is the Jouer Springtime in Paris matte eyeshadow palette, I think it's called. This is what it looks like. Honestly, I think I've used it once or twice and then just stored it away. They're nice, but it's not something that I really care for too much. This is the Lorac Unzipped Gold palette, I think it's called. This is what it looks like, and my first time ever in Ulta, I actually bought this because, again, I am in Canada and we only have a Sephora. We do not have Ulta, so Lorac is exclusive to there if I'm not mistaken, and you can't, regardless, you can't find it in Canada anywhere. So this was the first palette that I bought ever at Ulta, and I love it so much. So next is another Urban Decay palette. This is the Urban Decay Gwen Stefani palette. So I only bought this way after that it launched. It was like $20 or $25, and when I worked at Sephora, I got 20% off on this brand, so I was like, yeah, I'll buy it. And to be honest, I don't think I ever touched it at all, so it's just kind of collecting dust at this point. So this is the Urban Decay Ultimate Basics palette. This is their all matte palette. I got this in gratis. I did not buy this. I actually got 3 of them in gratis. So I have 2 of them that eventually will end up in a giveaway sometime soon. This is a very nice all matte palette. Again, this is a very basic palette. So next up is this Blink Electric Eyes palette that was in the BoxyCharm box that I had. These are all the shimmer shades that are in there. They're very nice. I don't really ever grab this just because I have, again, foiled eyeshadows, Makeup Geek, so I don't really grab it too much, but I don't hate it whatsoever. So before I ever researched Lime Crime, I bought their Venus palette. This is what it looks like, and honestly, I never understood the hype behind it, and now that everyone has basically exposed the owner for being quite a few different things, I don't think I'll ever touch this ever again, now that I know a lot about the owner. So next up is the Makeup Revolution Chocolate Elixir palette. I actually use this in a tutorial, which I will link in one of the cards that will pop up right in the top corner right now. I really do like this palette. It reminds me a lot of the Chocolate Bar palette, but the formula isn't as amazing, but it is still very high quality for the very cheap price that it is. So this was a palette that was sent to me in PR from Makeup Revolution. And to be honest, these shadows are truly amazing. These highlighters, this one actually just broke as I opened this, so I'm a little annoyed about that. But these 4 highlighters are very beautiful. I don't really use it anymore. And now that I just pulled this out, I kind of want to put this on my vanity so I never forget to use it again. Next up is the MAC and Jeremy Scott palette. I did a full review on this palette, so I will link that again in one of the cards up above right now. This palette is really amazing. I love it. I love the whole look of this. It is very Jeremy Scott-esque. It is beautiful. So next up is one of the only palettes that I own by Morphe, and this is the Jaclyn Hill palette. To be honest, this palette cost way too much money for Canadians with that $40 shipping. It was just stupid, like very stupid, the cost of this. But I will say that it is a nice palette. As you guys can see, I have abused this. I don't really care for Morphe palettes that often, but this one was one that I was like, yeah, actually, I don't really mind it, but it definitely was not worth that damn price. So next is the Kat Von D Shade and Light eyeshadow palette. Everyone already knows what this looks like. This is a very nice palette. I got this in gratis when I worked at Sephora. It's a very basic palette. I don't really ever use it too much anymore, but it is a nice palette. So next up is the Carity Just Peachy palette. I used this in one of my looks, which I will end up linking somewhere in the description box down below. This is a very nice warm palette. I think we're going kind of for that Too Faced Peach palette, which will be coming up in a second. This one I prefer over that though. So following, this is the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. This is what it looks like, and honestly, I just did not care for this. I don't know what the hype was around it. The smell of it is just atrocious at this point. When I first got it, I didn't mind it, and I kind of liked it a little bit, but as it's, like, I guess aged, it just, I don't know, I don't like it. I will not use this on my eyes. I should probably throw this away. So the next three palettes are all going to be by Zoeva, and I got these also in a bundle that they have for a little bit more cheaper than buying them all individually. This is a Cocoa Blend palette. This is what it looks like, and I don't think that I've used this more than like maybe 2 times. I didn't really care for the pigmentation of it. There isn't much to it. It looks very, very soft and not really what I like. I will say their brushes are my absolute favorite in all my looks. Those are usually the brushes that I am using, but the eyeshadow palettes just kind of lacked for me. So this is the Caramel Melange, I think that's how you're supposed to say it, palette. I will say this one I do like a little bit more. Out of all the ones that I got, the 3 that I got, this is the one that I like the most. And obviously that orange shade is the reason why I basically like this palette. This is just the warm palette and I love it. So this is the Blanc Fusion, and honestly I've only used the shimmer shades. The mattes that are all along the bottom are so muted that I was like, no, I'm not even gonna bother wasting my time. I know I'm not gonna like them, but the shimmer shades are very, very nice in this one. Next is the Balm Cosmetics Nude 2 palette. This is available on getdolly.com and .ca, and this is a very, very nice palette. It is more on the basic, I guess you could call it, side, but I love the Balm Cosmetics. I love their highlighters, I love their lipsticks, I love their eyeshadows, I love their bronzers, their blushes. I basically love everything by them. I don't think I've tried anything that I didn't really... Actually, no, lie. Lip glosses I don't like. Anything else, I love. So here is the Saharan 2 palette. This I bought, and when I received it, was completely broken. And I completely forgot until I just opened it right now, and now all of the shadows are in my lap. There goes some more, and this is what I was talking about. So I posted on Snapchat and on Instagram when I received it. I was literally unboxing it, and when I unboxed it, those 2 shades were completely smashed. And for all of y'all who thought that I was joking, there it is in my lap. Me in my pajamas right now, because ain't nobody dressing up fancy for this. But that's what I'm about to go clean up real quick. BRB. So next is the Stila Matte and Metal palette. This is what the inside looks like. I do love this. When I worked at Sephora, I used to actually grab this a lot and use it on clients. I just wanted a very basic look, and they always loved however the looks I created with came out. So I would recommend this palette. Really quickly, just gonna say, you might see all over my hands a bunch of powder, and that's again because that palette just exploded on me. And here is the Tarteus Pro To Go palette by Tarte. This is what the inside looks like. I got this in gratis, and honestly I never ever used it. It just was not something that screamed to me. So moving on, this is the Pure Cosmetics Soiree Diaries. This is what it looks like. I've used this and I think 2 or 3 of my tutorials on my channel, I believe. I really do like this. This is a very, it's definitely more on the more basic side, but they are very, very pigmented. They are truly amazing shadows. I love these. Next up is the Makeup Revolution and Soph Does Nails. I think that's her name on YouTube and Instagram. This is their palette that they did in collaboration. This is what the palette looks like. It is actually amazing. I used this in 1 or 2 videos of mine, and I think I did a full review on this too, if I'm not mistaken. This I absolutely love. All these are super pigmented, and they are just beautiful. They blend effortlessly. This is a great palette, super inexpensive too. And now this is the BH Cosmetics Take Me Back to Brazil palette. Again, this is that editorial, or what I like to call rainbow palette. I really did like this. For BH Cosmetics, this is actually a phenomenal palette, and it's, I think, like $10 or $12, something very inexpensive. So if you guys need one of them, this is good too. It's not as amazing as the Viseart editorial palette, but it does do, and you do get more shades and ranges of shades than what obviously the Viseart one has. Now moving on to palettes that I really don't care for, and I will explain in each one why I don't care for it as well. This is the Pure Cosmetics, not to be confused with PUR Cosmetics, Buff Collection palette. So, I don't think I really need to say this, but it looks exactly like the Urban Decay. It is a dupe for it. I think it's the Urban Decay Naked 3 or Naked 2 palette. Whatever one looks exactly like this. This is just a dupe for it. So next is Subculture. This is a palette that I didn't care for. I will tell you why in a minute. By Anastasia. The packaging is the one that I do not like. And that's not why I don't like this palette. With this palette, you either loved it or you absolutely hated and despised it. Here's the thing, I do like the colors. I do like basically everything about it. The one thing that makes me honestly not like this and wish I could return it is how pigmented it is. You have to be so careful, and honestly, I have a heavy hand when I go into my shadow, so I don't have the time nor the patience to go and really take my time with this palette. So I guess technically I don't fully hate it. It's just that one thing that makes me never want to grab this palette again, but ultimately it is a nice palette. So this is a Beauty Creations Elsa palette. It kind of reminds me of the Morphe and Jacqueline palette, and I was supposed to do a full review on this, and still people ask me to keep on posting that review. It will not come up, and I'm going to tell you why right now. First of all, the colors in this, honestly, they look amazing, they swatch amazing, and when you touch them with your brush, they just are not what they should be. All of these colors, when you put them on, every single one of these right here, literally, well, not those two, but every one of these colors all look the exact same once you put them on. These ones, it's the exact same thing. They all look the exact same right when you put them on. They look different in the palette, but once you put them on, they look the exact same color. They all kind of like muddy up as well. The other thing is the brand is a little sketchy in my opinion. This is the 35 Color Pro palette. It says Sophia down here, so I'm assuming that this is also called the Sophia palette. It looks exactly like the 350 palette by Morphe, that all matte one or whatever the number is. It looks exactly like that, and I've never tried the all matte one. I used to own the 350 palette and I ended up getting rid of it because I didn't like it. And much like that one, I didn't like this one either. They all literally look the exact same and just muddy up. So this was a huge no. And this is the last one by that brand. It is called the Irresistible palette. So honestly, I'm getting tired of all of my eyeshadows just breaking on me. Maybe I need to stop talking smack and this is like karma or something. I don't know, but that just completely broke. I didn't know it was broken. This is supposed to be kind of like the Modern Renaissance palette. I do prefer the Modern Renaissance way more than this one. And now this palette is basically going to go in the garbage just because that whole thing broke on camera. I also want to say this is the third eyeshadow or third pan of something that has broke the minute I opened it. I don't know what is going on, what is my luck, but I'm getting very annoyed. Thankfully, it's been palettes so far that I really didn't care for anyways, so whatever. But if any of my nice palettes end up breaking in the near future, there's gonna be a mad problem. So I don't know if the name is going to end up showing up, but this is the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye palette, and these are their quads. This is a smoke one. So this palette I've actually never used at all, so it's not a dislike, it's not a like, it's a I've never tried it, and it's kind of just sitting there for collectors. I really wanted the Rust one, and ended up getting the smoke one. So this is the Winky Luxe Kitten palette in collaboration with BoxyCharm. I got this in BoxyCharm. I don't dislike it. I just don't really care for it. It's not something that I grab ever. This is one of the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea eyeshadow palettes. So this is what it looks like. I got this in BoxyCharm, and because it was in BoxyCharm is the only reason why I have it. I'm not one to grab a palette that is all shimmers, especially when it's shimmers that I have a more better quality of. So I don't really ever grab this. It's not a terrible palette, but I don't think that it's worth the price, and I'm not sure if you can actually get this anymore either. So next up is the Naked Cosmetics palette. This I got in BoxyCharm. Honestly, I'm getting so sick of everything just breaking on me today. What the hell? So this I got, like I said, in BoxyCharm, and because I got it in BoxyCharm, I have it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really have gotten this, just because this isn't really... None of these shades go together at all, and it's not really a palette that I would ever really grab, so kind of just sits in there. It's a great formula, they're very pigmented, but it's just not something that I would ever gravitate towards. So this is the mini Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette. I want to say I got this in gratis. I really don't know where I got this from. So you're getting the Chocolate Soleil bronzer and then 3 other shades that are in the Chocolate Bar palette. Again, very basic palette. It's not terrible whatsoever. I just would love to know where I even got this from because I don't remember buying it. So this is the Smashbox Golden Hour palette. I do like how they have that, I don't even know what it's called when the palette changes when you turn it. I really don't know what that's called. Holographic, I guess? Is that what it is? I'm not really sure. But this is the inside. I got this in gratis, and honestly, I don't really care for it too much. I did want a Blaze, I believe it's called, which was the warm one. But this one I really didn't care for it too much. It is all shimmer shades except for the two top shades on the top of the palette. This is the Makeup Revolution palette that I got in the Christmas Advent calendar. I did a whole review on the Advent calendar and this was in it. It's a very basic palette, but it's actually really nice. I love the look that I came out with. I don't necessarily hate this, I just don't ever really grab it anymore. So this is the Sigma Brilliant and Spellbound palette. This is what the inside looks like, and to be honest, I don't think I've ever used this one, which is really embarrassing, but this is what it looks like. Can't say really anything about it because I don't think I've ever used this. So this is again one of the Sigma palettes, and this is the Smoke Screen palette. Again, I don't think I've ever actually used this one. Awkward. So this is another Sigma palette. This is a warm neutrals one. This palette I actually have used, which I am proud to say. Out of the three, I've used one. This palette though, however, the shimmers are very natural, kind of like the Paris Nudes palette by Viseart. So I don't really ever use it too much. I think I've used it maybe a handful of times and that was really it. So this was a palette that I got in BoxyCharm. This is a Studio Makeup On The Go eyeshadow palette. This is what it looks like. Again, this is just a very basic palette. There's nothing really special about it. That black eyeshadow broke when I opened it and was unboxing it. Just my luck, I guess. So this is the Estee Edit by Estee Lauder palette. This is in a duo that you would get. You would get this palette, which is all eyeshadows, and the highlighter palette. This is what it looks like, and honestly, I think I've used two of the shades that are in here. I really only bought it when it was on sale for the highlighter palette, which you'll see in my face palettes because that palette is amazing. This one I just don't care for. On top of that, I'm pretty sure Estee Edit does not exist anymore. If I'm not mistaken. It's just Estee Lauder now, there's no Estee Edit. So this is a tiny little palette that I also got in BoxyCharm. Every month you would always get one eyeshadow palette or some type of palette. This is the, I think it's IBY, maybe Ibby Beauty. Again, I got this, used it in the unboxing and never really used it again. It's not bad whatsoever, it's just not something that I'm ever going to grab because there's only 3 shades in it. So this is the Tartelette Tease by Tarte palette, and I got this in gratis, and honestly I don't think I've ever used this, and again the only reason why I have it is because I got it in gratis. So this is a Real Her palette. I believe there is another one that is a face palette that I got, and this is the, I guess, part 1 of the 2. I got this in BoxyCharm, and once again I just don't really care for it. I used it in the unboxing and then never used it again, only because it's pretty basic, and if I had to pick a palette, I would probably go with my Inglot and Make a Peak eyeshadow pans than this palette, to be honest. So this is one of the Pure Cosmetics palettes that I have, PUR. I didn't really care for the shimmers that were in this, only because they weren't super pigmented that I like. It's nothing like this palette right here. It is nothing like this. This is absolutely amazing. This one I just didn't really care for too much. And this is the part 2 of that I have. And again, these were all pretty muted, so I never ever grab it. Like, these shades all look the exact same. In the pan, on the eyes, swatched, everything. So this is the Urban Decay Naked Basics 2 palette, and I think this was like one of the first eyeshadow palettes that I've ever bought in by Urban Decay, and maybe even eyeshadow palette in general. This is what it looks like, and again, very basic, as you guys all know. Don't really need to say too much about it. So this is another one of those Studio Makeup On The Go eyeshadow palettes, and this again was in BoxyCharm. I used it in the unboxing and I don't think I ever used it again. These shadows and shade ranges are all pretty muted and similar, so I don't really care for it, but this shimmer shade is very nice. So this is the last palette that I have in my collection for eyeshadow palettes, and this is the Glam Metals palette by Crown Pro. I guess Crown Brushes, this is the pro side. And again, this was in BoxyCharm. So to be honest, I don't think I've ever used this palette, and that's because when I got this, I decided to stop doing the unboxings of BoxyCharm boxes, and I also unsubscribed from it. So I don't think I've ever touched this in my yeah, I don't think I've ever used this, so can't really tell you much about it. So thank you all for watching this week's collection, and I will see y'all in next week's collection. See ya.